Welcome to Unselfishly Me, a podcast all about self-love, self-care, and everything in between. I'm Jane, a personal trainer with a focus on self-love. Each week, we'll be chatting to someone about their self-love journey, how long it took, and what it took to get there. I'm sure that everyone is feeling a little bit nervous and scared with everything that's going on in the world right now. I think in the beginning, as a South African, you were watching every other country kind of, start slowly, and China, and you're like, it's fine, we're so far away from China. And then you saw Italy, and you're like, it's fine, it's far away. And then the UK, and like now, it's just snowballed so much. And then it started coming here from the travelers, and then I think you just started thinking, it's okay, we'll contain it. And then suddenly you started seeing the stats coming out of Italy, which is like a first world country, and you start thinking to yourself, okay, we are a third world country, we don't have that much medical care available, we don't have the resources. And then you start doing the math, and then I think you start realizing this thing is going to be so much bigger than we ever thought. And I myself kind of did the math, and just from hearing from people around me and realizing that it was going to be the biggest thing that's ever happened to this country, and that so many people won't survive it, and the only way to do it is to flatten the curve and to try and get people to stay at home. If we could get at least half the population staying at home, isolated inside, to prevent the spread of it, that's the only way we're going to slow it down enough for our hospitals and doctors and nurses to be able to handle it, and to be able to get people well enough so that we don't have disastrous numbers of deaths. So I have been staying at home as much as possible already, and I've been home for a few days straight already, and now they've just announced the lockdown last night. So I'm so happy about that, because it is the only chance that we have to maybe stop this in a few weeks instead of months and months and months, because it would just keep on going. So, I mean, we don't really know enough about it, but at least if we can slow it down and take the pressure off the doctors and nurses. I mean, seeing their pleas on Facebook from around the world and just trying to warn people, it's just heartbreaking. And I think our doctors and nurses in this country, especially in government hospitals, have to deal with so much already, with lack of supplies and overwhelming, that it's not really fair on them to have something like this. I think it would actually put people off, to be honest, and I think it would make them lose hope in the system that they are trying to stay in and qualify for, and to help people. I think that they would, maybe some of them would actually change careers after this, after being put through this amount of stress. So I decided to do an episode to try and educate us a little bit more, and I have interviewed a few different people that I thought would give some value. It is going to be too long for one episode, so we're going to break this down into 2 episodes. So for this episode, we are talking to Andi van Zyl, who is in Italy at the moment under lockdown. She is a South African living there. We're also talking to Lara Elliott. She is the doctor working here in KZN, and she gives a really raw and real account of what she is anticipating. And then we also talk to the girls from the Instagram account Living Corona Positive. So they were one of the first 50 that had tested positive in South Africa, and they have done an account to show what their recovery is looking like, symptoms, and just trying to educate people and help as much as possible. So I'm really grateful that they decided to open up and share their stories with us today. We have Andi van Zyl, a South African living in Italy, here also giving her account of her experience with the coronavirus in Italy. A friend actually shared her Instagram, and I started watching her stories, and I was just captivated by her story and her posts about what's going on in Italy. So I decided to ask if she would send a voice note and just let us know what's happening there, just maybe from an insider point of view of what they've been going through, because they are like a few weeks ahead of us, and it's just been catastrophic there. So I was hoping that we could just really hear what it's like in lockdown and maybe give us some perspective. So thanks to Andi for getting involved and doing this with us. So you're based in Italy. How are you feeling right now?
Well, we're on our 13th day of the lockdown, and yeah, it's starting to get a bit intense. In the beginning, you're sort of very optimistic and positive about things, and you keep yourself busy and make things to do. And then, the sun's shining outside, the weather's beautiful, and there's just quiet silence all around you. And every evening at 6 p.m., they announce the deaths and the new cases. So there's definitely a more feeling of sadness at the moment, of heaviness. It's not as bright and optimistic as it was with all the clapping and the singing from the balconies. That kind of started to die down after a while. So yeah, it's a strange feeling. I'm feeling very grateful for my family and my home, but yeah, it is starting to get a lot tougher than it was in the first week.
What was it like watching the start of it in China? Did you think Italy would be as bad, or did it feel like it wouldn't touch you, so to speak?
Well, this broke out in China in December already, so we weren't really paying that much attention to what was going on. I mean, of course, you see it on the news and you know, it's a worry, but you don't think much of it because it's not personally affecting you or hitting countries that that you're close with. So, I didn't really pay too much attention right at the beginning. And then we flew back from South Africa to Italy on the 21st of February. And at that time, there were 3 cases in Italy. So again, we didn't pay too much attention to it. We carried on our lives as normal. And actually, after 2 weeks, we were still going out, seeing friends. The Saturday before the lockdown, we were actually having lunch in the center of Rome. It was very quiet, but we met our friends for lunch and, we were discussing it at the table. And it was a bit of a concern, but it wasn't until the Sunday when they locked down the north of Italy that we really got a fright. So yeah, that's kind of something that we didn't really think that it would ever get to the point that it is today. And that was just one day before the northern lockdown, and then they locked down the rest of Italy 2 days after that. So when I think back at that, I'm so embarrassed because how did I not see the warning signs? How did I not listen? Just because I was in China and it felt so far away, you could never have actually imagined what it was like in China until it happened here. So just pretty ashamed that we didn't take it more seriously. And now, of course, our life dramatically changed. And now we're completely under lockdown and we do every precaution and take every bit of advice that we possibly can. We're constantly looking at the numbers. We're constantly washing things. When we do our shopping, obviously we go out in masks and gloves, but we also leave the shopping for a few hours outside. We disinfect with a wipe every box from everything that we've bought. We're really respecting the rules now. I just can't believe, and I just wish we had done so sooner.
Is it surreal now? And describe what you've been through in the last few weeks.
It is completely surreal. I've never experienced anything like this. So, as I said, our life just changed completely. We have a little 5-month-old baby, and we have, that's just when you're sort of getting into a routine. So we started taking her to the park in the day, and we have our little daily routine of things that always consists of going out and doing things. And I mean, everything just came to a halt overnight. It was crazy. And yeah, we can only go to the supermarket. Thank goodness we have one on our road. But even that's changed over the last 5 days. So we were able to go, not freely, but it was controlled. And now the queues to get in are about a 2-hour wait. So yeah, that's our only outing for the day. I can't take my daughter out at all, which is really hard. Also, Italy's not like South Africa where most people have a bit of space. So we're just in an apartment. We don't have a garden or any way of going outside and getting fresh air. Yesterday, I just had a moment where I had to go out. I had to just go out. So I thought, what excuse can I give? Because there's police patrolling and checking everywhere. So I thought, what excuse could I give just to go out and get a little fresh air? The trash. Okay, I'm going to take the rubbish out. So that was my little break, So yeah, we can't do anything other than the supermarket or the pharmacy, and they're police checking everywhere what you're doing. So, I mean, yeah, as I said, I've never experienced anything like this, and life has completely changed.
So what is the feeling on the ground there now, and how are you coping with the isolation at home?
Isolation at home, I mean, I'm very lucky that we can be at home for the isolation. I just wish we did have a little bit more space, especially for my daughter Arabella, just to see the sky and the trees. We have a big tree. We have a tiny little terrace off our kitchen. So we go on there sometimes. We do a little feed there, or just to hear the birds and let Arabella see that tree. But that's about it. And then obviously, you know, we don't have anyone coming in the house. So it's just keeping up with all the work in the home. So we have a little routine where we wash everything. We're cleaning the kitchen, cleaning the bathrooms, cleaning the rooms, doing the laundry, playing with Baba. So just trying to balance everything. It's quite a lot because we can't have a break from anything ever. It's quite full on. But yeah, as I said, we're super lucky to be in isolation at home. And we're so lucky to have our little girl who keeps us really busy and who seems to make the time go faster. And she doesn't care where she is. So that's really sweet. As long as she has love and happiness and joy around her, she doesn't notice so much, I don't think. So we're very fortunate to have a little baby during this time. And I know that for so many, it's so much harder. You know, for elderly people who live in small apartments here in Rome, who rely so much on other people to help them with every day, that now can't do that. So I know that it's just so much worse for a lot of other people.
What would you like to tell South Africans about this virus, and what should they do?
Stay at home. Don't go out. Don't do things in groups. Isolate. That's what I would tell my friends in South Africa and everybody back home, is to please take it seriously, because from one day to the next, everything can change. And I worry so much for South Africa because I'm scared for the healthcare workers. I'm scared for the hospitals. I'm scared for the medical infrastructure. I don't know if it can handle what happened here in Italy. And we have all the warnings. South Africans have all the warnings. They're not asking a lot, you know, just to stay at home in the comfort of your own home is not that much to ask, just for 2 weeks or however long the government suggests. But honestly, it distresses me when I see videos of people going out and in groups, and I just think, oh, if only I could just, you could feel what it's like for one day here. You would change completely your attitude. So yes, everyone just stay at home, do what you can to try and stop the spread. It's so, so important.
Do you think people are taking it seriously enough here in South Africa?
It's difficult for me to say because I'm not there, and my family obviously have seen what I've gone through, so they are super in isolation. But from what I do see through social media, I don't think South Africans are taking it seriously. I also think for the majority of the population, it's extremely hard to do what we are doing in Italy. So, but the people that should, and I've seen a lot of people that aren't. So, yeah, but you know, I was in that situation. I was one of the people that weren't taking it seriously. So I understand. But now there's so much information, there's so much footage, there's so many numbers, graphs. I mean, everyone can see what's happening in Italy, what happened in China, what's happening in Spain. So there's just no excuse now not to take it seriously.
What is your biggest takeaway from the situation?
My biggest takeaway? Well, I think it's just that my biggest takeaway, freedom is a huge thing. I never realized how, privileged I am. So, yeah, just to be really more grateful in life, for freedom, for everything that I have. And also to really pay attention more and not just think I'm in the center of the world, definitely to pay attention to things that are happening around us all the time, and always try and put the shoe on the other foot and imagine what other people are going through. because there's always someone worse off than you. So yeah, I think gratitude, and also just to pay attention more. And also that doctors and nurses and medical carers rock. They are literally heroes. Just seeing what the medical professionals are going through in Italy, imagine dedicating your life to save other lives. I think doctors and nurses and everyone who works in the medical field are just heroes.
And a final message to everyone in South Africa?
I would really urge everyone in South Africa to take this seriously, to stay home, make it fun, make it nice, do a routine, but just stay at home. Don't see people, don't see groups. And really, I don't think people understand what self-isolating means. It literally means not seeing anyone, not getting together with everyone, not planning brides or no, it's self-isolating with your immediate unit, with the people who live with you. So yeah, stay home, stop the spread. We have the power to do that. So that would be my message to everyone in South Africa. Please, please, please take it seriously. Stay home, isolate, and do your part. You can save lives from the comfort of your home. That's awesome.
So we have Dr. Lara Elliott here talking to us about the coronavirus, COVID-19. I just wanted to get a doctor's perspective, and especially one that's a mom, because it can be very scary in general. But I just wanted to know, as a doctor, how it felt being a mom as well, because it must be even more scary. So I'm very grateful that she is talking to us today, just so you guys can hear from someone on the front line.
Okay, my name is Dr. Lara Elliott. I am currently an MO at Trauma ICU at Albert Luthuli, which is our central quaternary referral hospital in KZN. So basically we get referrals from all the other hospitals. I particularly work in the trauma ICU. So we get all the worst trauma cases from around the country. And we have quite a few ventilator beds in our ward. While we are not a dedicated COVID ward, the ICUs upstairs will take COVID patients, and we will take over their sick patients. I have no doubt that in the end, the patients will be in our ward, whether they come from trauma and they already have the disease, or at some point when the ICUs upstairs are just over full and inundated with the cases. Of course, any spare ventilator beds will be utilized. At this point, we have 10 ICU ventilator beds in our ward, but today they are busy building a new ward next to our ward and adding another 6 ventilators, so that will be 16 beds. My HOD tells us that if it gets bad on those 16 beds, we will have to ventilate 2 to 3 patients per ventilator, which could take our numbers up to 48 patients in our ward. Bearing in mind the staff there will be no extra staff, so there will be 2 doctors on call still, doing 26-hour shifts with possibly 48 patients. And you have to remember that ventilator patients are very labor intensive. It's not just a case of popping them on the ventilator and leaving them there.
So how are you feeling about the virus in SA? My feelings are that South Africans aren't worried and are in denial.
So I'm very scared. I've actually spent the last week in tears on and off, not feeling very heroic at all. So yeah, I've been very worried. As I said, I've been at home in tears on and off. I'm a mother, so I'm also trying not to let my 3-year-old or my 1-year-old pick up my anxiety. So most times I cry quietly or in another room. And these tears are both, my fear is that South Africans, up until tonight's lockdown, aren't taking this seriously at all. With our numbers of HIV in this country and cancer patients, we are going to be inundated with patients needing ventilators. And with only 1,000 ventilator beds in the country, we are going to be having to make very hard decisions on who to leave and let die and who deserves a ventilator. If it gets to the point that someone's on a ventilator and someone more worthy comes along, we're going to have to make the decision to switch off that ventilator, which will be taxing emotionally. And what we need to remember is while the healthcare workers are going to be emotionally taxed, many of us will get COVID and be working sick. So we're going to be emotionally and physically depleted already, and then have these terrible decisions to make. And of course, the economy is going to take a huge knock, but that's not really my concern for now.
What is your biggest worry?
Well, my team and I are all very anxious. I mean, I'm on 26-hour call tonight, so I'm currently sitting in my call room. I can't sleep. I can hardly eat. It seems to be the sentiment amongst most of my team. But what can we do? I mean, my mother wants me to resign and pull out my pension, but how would I live with myself? I've taken an oath. I can't do that to my colleagues. So, we're all stuck here, and it is a privilege to be on the front line and to help, but of course we are extremely scared. But what can we do but take it one day at a time? And I don't really know how you can mentally prepare for this. Some moments I feel like I can't carry on with the anxiety. I still suffer from some postnatal anxiety, so it's been particularly hard for me. But yeah, one day at a time, and hopefully this lockdown will offer us some form of relief. I'm just hoping they can implement this in the rural areas. I don't see how they can, but I live in hope.
You're a wife and a mom to two precious babies. So what are your fears surrounding your family? How are you going to balance work and your family when this really hits us and you're working crazy shifts? Have you been prepared as to what to expect work-wise?
Yeah, I am a wife and a mom to two children. I've got a boy of 3 and a baby girl of 15 months who I still breastfeed and who likes to sit on her mommy every opportunity she has. My son is a very sensitive soul and also relies heavily on his mother, and also has some fine motor OT issues, which are not too bad, but I try and work on them each day with him. My concern is, for now I'm still living at home because we don't have any COVID patients in the hospital. But once we get one, I'm going to have to assess the situation. I have secured a 3-bed duplex for 2 female colleagues and myself, so that if it gets to it, the 3 of us can go in self-quarantine. I don't know all the answers, whether we'll have to self-quarantine for 14 days or 3 months or 6 months. But of course, it absolutely breaks my heart to think about being away from my children for that long. Yeah, we'll be able to FaceTime. Maybe I can see them from the balcony. But what happens if they fall and hurt themselves and mommy's not there to hug them? Or what happens if they become sick and I'm not there to look after them? Yeah, it's a hard one, but there's really nothing I can do about it. I mean, I get emotional when I have to leave them for 26 hours, so this is going to be extremely hard for me, and I'm trying my best to stay brave and think about the people I'm going to help, but selfishly, I'm petrified of being away from my children. My husband is quite useless with babies, so thankfully I have a mother who will come and stay with them. And also we are very blessed to have a live-in quarters for my wonderful nanny, who has so gratefully moved in with us during this period. I did take her home last weekend to spend some time with her family, a long weekend, and I educated her homestead about what's happening. And then she came home on Sunday with one of her daughters to stay with us for the unforeseen future. Our domestic worker, who we used to have 3 days a week, we have laid off with full pay until further notice to prevent her from going on taxis.
How are doctors in SA preparing? It must be quite a mental preparation to wrap your head around it.
I'm very thankful to have, I work with one of my colleagues I went to pre-primary with, and her and I are quite close, and I'm sure over this period we will get a whole lot closer, especially if her and I have to go into self-quarantine together. And it's nice to have her to chat to because, I mean, my husband and my mother can try and understand. But I don't think anyone who's not a healthcare worker fully understands the gravity of what we are about to do and how our lives will change forever. I'm getting my will up to date. I'm making sure that the beneficiaries for my pension are sorted out. I don't want to be negative, but I have to be realistic. And I hope it doesn't get to that because with kids, it's you don't want to have to think about them losing their mum. But yeah, let's not get too dreary.
At the end of the day, you're a mom and you're going to be away from your babies for extended periods of time. What can South Africans do to help the doctors and nurses through this?
Well, what can South Africans do to help the doctors and nurses through this? Please just stay at home. Allocate one person in your house to go and do groceries if you absolutely have to. Make sure you stay away 2 meters from people. Do not touch your face. Please hand sanitize before you get back in your car, and again before you go inside the house, and again after you've unpacked your groceries. Beyond that, just respect the lockdown, please. Because if you don't, in effect, you're killing your fellow South Africans and possibly the people who are trying to help you the most.
And finally, what would you like to tell South Africans?
What would I like to tell South Africans? I wish I could tell you I think it's going to be okay, but realistically, I don't. We've seen what's happening in Italy. I can't even watch Sky News. It's like a sci-fi horror film. It makes me cry each time I watch it. And that's a first world country. They do not have the amount of sick people we have. And they do not have the informal areas where people live on top of each other and don't even have running water. So I don't think that we have much to look forward to. The president's speech tonight did offer me some respite and a glimpse of hope. While I think it's still going to get out of hand, definitely this should at least help to flatten the curve a bit, and I'm placing all of my hope on what he's doing, and I respect and applaud him tremendously. I mean, Australia hasn't done this. London's only starting to get onto it now, and their numbers are way higher than ours. So for South Africa to be doing this is a great, great thing indeed. But otherwise, guys, just, I know it's hard. Try and stay positive. I'm saying that while I cry on this, but I have my moments when I'm positive and my moments when I'm overwhelmed, and we're all going to spend time with your family. If you want to chat to a friend, if you need some help, WhatsApp call them. You can have a glass of wine over a WhatsApp video. You can even do yoga together over WhatsApp video calls. I mean, we can still be together. We just don't have to be touching each other. Stay strong, stay safe, and say a little prayer for all of us. Thank you.
So Julia and Megan have the Instagram account Living Corona Positive, and they've agreed to chat to us today about their experience so far. So welcome, guys, and thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
So how are you feeling right now?
We're on day, I think it's 14 now, since our symptoms started showing.
I'm feeling better. I think I'm fully recovered. We haven't had tests yet, so I don't know if I'm still carrying the virus. I don't know if I'm still positive. But in terms of my symptoms, I think they've pretty much fully cleared.
Awesome. That's great news. How are you? Are you both feeling the same way, or because you contracted the same day? Hey.
Yeah, so we think we contracted it the same day, but it's been funny because all of our symptoms and length of symptoms have been so different. For me, I was very, very lucky. I really only had one bad day. And since then a bit of a sore throat and fatigue, but I've been pretty much good to go for the last week.
Amazing news. So what has this journey been like for you?
It's been a bit of a roller coaster, to be honest. I mean, when we first got sick, it sucked. We were sick. We were like properly, I was taking pain medication just for the headache and fever. And then recovery wasn't fun. Obviously, I personally experienced extreme fatigue. And then finding out that we were corona positive was shocking. I mean, I really, really did not think that we had contracted the coronavirus. I just thought we were getting some sort of random flu. That wasn't cool. And then it was a bit weird telling my friends. I don't know why. I think it took me like a day or two to sort of like wrap my head around the whole thing, because it was just so shocking getting the news that we were corona positive. So that was weird. And then when I started feeling better, I kind of was like, okay, this is not so bad. Like, this is just almost like a mild case of flu kind of thing. But then my symptoms kind of returned. And then I also experienced my dad struggling to get better from this, which wasn't so fun. So then, emotionally, it became a bit of a draining thing. So it has, it's been a bit of a roller coaster. And I think then a couple of days after that, we started the Instagram account, and the support that we've been getting from that has been really amazing. And it's been very uplifting for us to know that our experience and sharing that with others can help everyone, because there is so much panic and stress and anxiety out there over this whole thing, which is totally normal. But just being able to support others through that platform has actually brought us a lot of positivity. So, I guess we've kind of felt everything. It has definitely been a roller coaster for me.
And just following on from what Megs has said, I think from my side, even more surprising that we've got this thing, just because I've been feeling pretty okay for majority of the time. The whole virus has been built up and people are really panicking and they're really scared. So when I found out I had it and I'd actually been okay this whole time, that's obviously a bit weird, but again, just doing what we can to make people feel a little bit better, and helping where we can through that Instagram page.
Definitely. So how did you feel when you found out that you had it? And was it a big decision to go public? And what were your concerns?
Look, we had to, it was difficult not to tell friends and family and work. Obviously, you can't take off 2 weeks and not see friends and family and not give a reason. So it was difficult to not let it get out. And as Megs mentioned, quite odd, especially being sort of like the first few people in the country to have it. It did feel odd and it did feel a bit uncomfortable. But once we realized that this is something that's inevitable, it's going to happen, and it's going to happen to a lot of people, this odd stigma we had with telling people sort of faded, and we realized we just needed to do what we needed to do to get better and to just help as many people along the way as possible.
Yeah, and I think the Instagram account, it really will help people to be more educated, to see your symptom line. Like, you've really put some interesting facts and just documenting your days as well. I think it really is going to help a lot of people.
Yeah. I think like when my brother, because my brother was the first one to go and get the test. And when he was going to get the test, I was like, Mark, you're being a drama queen. Like, we don't have the coronavirus. just because, and I just thought, because there's so much hype in the world, Mark wants to go get the test. But then when he came back positive, I was like, I'm so sorry that I said that and that I judged your better judgment. I was completely surprised when it came out that he was positive, and therefore we landed up getting the test. For all of us, it did come out positive. So definitely was shocked. We just gotten back from a holiday, and I naturally wanted to go and see my friends. I wasn't feeling well enough to do that, but they all wanted to know where I was. And then I was so shy to tell them, but then did, and got such sort of support from them that it made it easier to tell the next person and the next person and the next person. And then Jules and I had gotten together the one day, and we said, we're getting such amazing support from our friends and family, and everyone wants to know what it's like and what it feels like. This is possibly something that we should be sharing. And then we were like, okay, but that's so weird. Like, how do we just put ourselves out there? And then I remember we got together one day and we said, okay, let's put together an Instagram account. What should we call it? And then we came up with the name. And then we were like, okay, so now should we put up a post? So we put up a post, and then we're like, okay, but now we have to tell people about this account. So we were like, okay, you've got to share it on your page. And I was like, okay, but I'm nervous. Like, this is so weird.
Yeah.
So that was kind of strange.
Also because it's just not in our nature to be, I don't think either of us are super sharey people, especially with personal things. So to take something fairly personal, especially when it's quite new in the country and there's so much unknown around it, to just share it with the whole world basically was a hell of a daunting, I think, for both of us.
Yeah, for sure.
I think you guys have been brave.
Yeah, I would agree though. Like, we definitely did have to be brave in the start. We had to overcome some personal fear. But I think what drove it was that it was just so clear that our friends and family who we had told, they knew nothing. Like, they knew nothing about this virus, what it was like, what they needed to do, how this would play out, because there was no one in the country who had it. So it all just came about naturally, and it was definitely driven by our friends gaining a lot of sort of perspective just from hearing what we were going through.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you staying healthy and adapting to your isolation?
I think all of us have always been fairly healthy people, so I don't think we needed to implement any sort of drastic changes, but we've been really good with just vitamins and smoothies every morning, and eating healthy and just drinking lots of water, and just getting a bit of sun. We've also been so lucky in that some amazing people have sent us packages. I think we're getting one from Nourished and some few great vitamin companies. So it's really just about staying healthy, and we've just tried to be as natural about it as possible. There have been some reports that the sort of painkillers and aspirins are not a good idea, so we've tried to steer clear of those. Just getting lots of sleep and staying positive. I think your mindset is so important when it comes to something like this, because if you keep telling yourself you're sick, and it's going to get worse, and sort of like think about it negatively, that does have an effect on your body. And I think just trying to stay as positive as possible has really helped a lot of us.
So you guys are feeling better each day, basically?
Yeah, definitely. For the first week, I was like man down, zero energy, and all of the common symptoms that come with corona, like the headache, the fever, the dry cough. What else was there? So I had a really sore throat and swollen glands under my chin. And then I would say the second week is where the like more hardcore symptoms for me started easing up, and I started feeling better. And I think now I'm at the point where I'm like feeling stronger again, and I'm feeling myself. But just, on that note, my dad his recovery hasn't really looked the same as ours. He's still very much has extreme fatigue, is very tired. Some of the other symptoms, like he doesn't have a headache and fever anymore, but his cough has lingered. And he's experienced other symptoms like loss of appetite and not being able to taste. So it's been different for everyone. But, Jules and I are young and healthy and fit, so we've been able to get over this quite quickly and at a sort of normal time frame. My dad and mom's okay, but dad's still struggling to kick this thing. But he's going to be fine in terms of like the fatal side of the virus, which is the attack on the respiratory system. He is clear of that, and we don't have to worry about that. But it's just like the flu side and getting over the flu side of the symptoms and the virus's action, I guess, that's taking much longer.
So what would you like to tell the people of South Africa about this virus and what they should and shouldn't be doing?
We're trying our best not to give advice because we don't know everything. We're just trying to tell our story, and if that helps and gives people advice along the way, then that's wonderful.
I think maybe what I would like to say is that on an individual basis, if you're healthy and if you're strong, you're going to be okay. But on a national basis and as a country, we have no idea what lies ahead. But we do have an idea that it's going to be very difficult to handle all of the sickness that seems to be spreading so quickly. And the most important thing, this is being said over and over again, is that we've got to work on flattening the curve, which means that we've got to try and delay the spread and minimize it as soon as possible. I watched a great TED talk that kept saying rapid response. And that's kind of what we've got to do. Just as quickly as possible, we've got to respond to what's going on, which means self-isolating, staying away from people. This is a human-to-human spread. And so if we're not coming into contact with other humans, the virus can't spread. So we've got to minimize our contact with as many people as possible, and self-quarantine and self-isolate.
Yeah, I think more people need to stay at home. If at least half the population can stay at home as much as possible, it's going to slow down the spread, and then it's going to give relief to the hospitals where there aren't enough beds. So for those that are really, really affected, which will generally be the older population.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just one last note on that, and probably just less practical advice, but I just think for those who are panicking, for those who are looking for someone to blame, this is not the time for that. This is the time to all work together. This is the time to be positive and to be kind. And I know it's difficult when this is a really scary thing that's happening. People always sort of want someone or something to blame. And I think to those people, just try and avoid that. You're missing the point here. And I think we will get through this. It is scary, but try and remain positive, and just, supportive of one another, really.
Definitely. I think South Africa generally comes together with things like this. That's the one thing that we are good at. Like, you almost want to hear everyone start singing Shosho Loza out the windows.
Yeah, exactly.
And so another point that I just wanted to make was that when we first contracted the virus, we had no idea that it was the coronavirus. And so, and we didn't know at that point, like, what to do, just simply because it was so early on in the onset of the spread of this virus that there wasn't the information available like it is now. And I think that the most important thing is that we just share with all of our friends and family and with our domestic workers and our colleagues and our everyone around us how to deal with this, and just get that hygienic information out there so that everyone is armed with the right information and can act appropriately. Because I think that, I think the awareness is growing among our community, but I'm not sure whether it's growing amongst all the communities in South Africa. And I think that that's also really important, to just share the right information so that we're all equipped with that when we need it.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most worrying part, is the information getting to the areas that aren't on social media and can't see what we're seeing.
Yeah.
So this podcast is usually about self-love and self-care. So how are you guys showing yourselves self-love each day?
We were actually talking about that this morning because I think we're going to do a post on it. But Personally, for me, it's just about meditating, appreciating the small things, appreciating what has gone right for us. As we said earlier, just remaining positive, and just thankful. I think we've been so lucky, and we know that we have been so lucky with friends and family and support. So just appreciating that, taking it day by day, looking after our bodies, getting enough sleep. I think that's, probably my routine.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's all the really basic things. Exactly, it's getting enough sleep. It's doing a little yoga flow in the morning to get to stretch the body out a bit. I have been hooked on my lemon and ginger tea because I find that really great for my immune system. And this just eating healthily, just trying to steer clear of sugar. That's never a good idea. When you're trying to heal from something, dairy hasn't been great for us while you've got any sort of flu or sickness. And also just what I've been doing is putting my phone down for a period of time each day where I just relax and read and try and get away from the whole corona thing because it's all consuming. Corona is everywhere. Every single TV channel, every single Instagram page, every single conversation, it seems to be around corona at the moment. So also just getting away from that and talking about other things and having a laugh with my family. I'm so grateful that I can be with my family through this time. I'm really, really very lucky. I know a lot of people are separated from their parents and from their family, and my heart goes out to those people. So I'm just enjoying family time, and I think that in itself is self-care. Just like being there for each other.
Your friend's comment about stopping and smelling the roses is probably a good one that you've taken with you now as well. One of Meg's friends just said that he's been so busy his whole life, and this isolation made him.
Well, he said it took a pandemic for him to stop and smell the roses, and that phrase for me just that gives me tingles. I think that we are trying to focus on the positive side of this because there's so much negativity out there. It's very easy to find the negativity. It's not that easy to find the positivity. And I think that the positive stuff that's going to come out of this is that we are all going to realize what's really important, and that's family, it's connections, and it's our personal health, looking after ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah, I definitely think that it's making people more aware of how important their health is and looking after themselves and also the people around them, and not necessarily looking at the phone. I think everyone's screen time has obviously increased because they're checking up on stuff.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to decrease soon as well, which is always a good thing. And maybe Netflix and books and everything will increase and the phone will decrease, which is great.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for making the time to chat with me and share everything with those listening. I think it's going to really make a difference to some people out there, and maybe also not make them feel shame at them contracting it and then having to share with other people. And I think that's what's important.
Yeah, we agree.
So thanks so much. And we wish you so much health and happiness in the coming weeks and months.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, Jane.
Thank you. Bye. So during this Corona COVID-19 quarantine vibe, my dad actually works in India, in Mumbai, and he had planned to come home now in March. But when everything started happening in early February, he decided not to come. I think it was more he didn't want to get it, traveling and then bring it here and then be around Pepe and us and the potential of that. It wasn't really about him being stuck here for quarantine and not being able to go back. It was more like a family safety thing. And he thought, okay, well, when he comes in June, he'll just extend it for a little bit longer so he can be with all of us in June. So now he's stuck over there and they're on lockdown and now we're on lockdown. So it's just been quite hard being quite far apart. He also hasn't seen Pepe since the first week of January. So for him, it's quite hard. It's going to be like a whole 6 months that he wouldn't have seen her instead of 3 months. And then, when babies are little, they progress so quickly. So it's a little bit sad that he's over there and he could have been like, in quarantine, locked down with us every day for 3 weeks would have been nice, but he has to work over there, and I don't know how that would have worked if he was here now and couldn't get back. I think also he works at the airport, so he kind of is in contact with a lot more people than we would be, so it's also just a safety thing for himself as well. But he did send me a video that they had decided in India at a certain time everyone was going to go onto their balconies and make noise and clap and ring bells and just have some appreciation for all the nurses and the doctors and the healthcare workers that are putting so much effort into fighting this virus in their country. I know a few other countries have now also said that they're going to do it, but they had done it this last weekend, and he filmed some clips for me on the balcony of his flat. And his area now where he is isn't in like central Mumbai where he used to be, where it would have been like lots of flats and very, very loud and almost deafening in like a nice way. So he's more like out towards the airport. There's a golf course nearby, like it's really beautiful and more serene. So it's not as loud as if he was in his old flat, but we've put together a clip of that so you can hear the appreciation from the Indian people now. Thanks for listening to part 1 of the coronavirus COVID-19 episode. We will be following on with part 2. Everyone stay home, stay safe, wash your hands, and just have some hope. Thanks for listening to Unselfishly Me. Follow us on Instagram at unselfishlyme and check out our website www.unselfishlyme.com.